I've been a Taylor Swift fan since literally middle school, and as you might be able to tell from some of my recent videos, I'm also a huge Jane Austen fan. So I figured what would be more natural than to talk about which Taylor Swift songs remind me of Jane Austen couples. Now, when I started brainstorming, I came up with too much to fit into one video. So this is actually going to be two videos, one of them today and then one of them next week. Today I'm going to be talking about couples from Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, and then next week we'll talk about the other four Jane Austen novels. For each of these couples, I picked 1 to 3 songs that remind me of them, that either tell a similar story, have a similar vibe to them, or present a similar view of romance to what is portrayed by the couple in the Jane Austen novel. I want to start off with Jane Bennet and Mr. Bingley from Pride and Prejudice, and I have 3 songs for them. One of them is Message in a Bottle. This is from Red, Taylor's version, so it's one of the newest songs, and it's basically about you want to be with someone, but they're not around, and you don't really know how to reach them, and so you're sending out a message in a bottle. And that's basically what's going on with Jane and Bingley for a large part of Pride and Prejudice. Because he's just all of a sudden gone. And she's like, she still loves him, obviously, but she doesn't know how to get in touch with him. She doesn't know what she did wrong to make him go away. I mean, she didn't really do anything wrong, but she doesn't know why he's gone. So I think that that song fits really well. The second song on my list for them is How You Get the Girl. This one basically tells a very similar story. Obviously, it takes place in the present day, and so it's not exactly the same, but basically the idea is the guy ghosts the girl, and then he shows up several months later and is like, "I'm so sorry, will you marry me? I want you for worse or for better, I could wait forever and ever." It's basically a marriage proposal to someone you haven't seen in a long time and who you ghosted, because it also says, when you left her all alone and never told her why. So obviously that's very similar to what happens with Jane and Bingley, and I think it suits them very well. And it does end up with, a happy ending. And then the third song that I picked for Jane and Bingley is New Year's Day. I bet you thought I'd never pick a song off of Reputation for the two of them, right? But it actually fits them really well. I would say that New Year's Day is probably one of the sweetest love songs off of Reputation. And the lyrics that make me think of them are, "I want your midnights, but I'll be cleaning up bottles with you on New Year's Day." I think the idea of New Year's Day is basically you want someone who will share life's big, sparkly, special moments with you, but will also be there through the everyday mundane stuff, cleaning up bottles on New Year's Day. The person who won't just be the life of the party, but will also be there with you when it ends and life kind of goes back to normal every day. Switching over to Sense and Sensibility, I want to talk about Eleanor Dashwood and Edward Ferrars. So one Taylor Swift song that really reminds me of them is August. And I know that's a little bit odd because it's like she's the other woman in the love triangle in August. There's the little trio of songs, Betty, Cardigan, and August. And August is from the point of view of the girl who the narrator of Betty cheats on the narrator of Cardigan with. And Edward doesn't cheat on Lucy Steele with Elinor. In fact, he's a very proper gentleman who basically completely denies his feelings for Elinor because he thinks he has to do right by Lucy. But Elinor is still very much the third wheel in that relationship. She is the part of the love triangle that spends the whole book thinking that there's no hope for her. And so I feel like the idea of, you were never mine, longing for someone that you feel like you have no right to because they're meant to be with someone else. I think that because she knows about the secret engagement between him and Lucy, and because she is just such a morally upright person who will keep her promises and who will keep secrets that have been divulged to her no matter how much it breaks her heart, I see a lot of that kind of conflicted emotion of loving someone that you feel like it was never yours to lose. And then another song that really reminds me of them is I Almost Do. And I just want to tell you, it takes everything in me not to call you. Every time I don't, I almost do. I feel like that could be kind of from both of their perspectives because I think that it's very obvious that they are very much drawn to each other and that they're in love with each other from very early on in the novel, even though they have obligations and commitments that get in the way, and it's not really possible for them to be together, both because his family wouldn't approve and because he's secretly engaged to someone who his family approves of even less. Another Sense and Sensibility couple that I want to talk about is Marianne Dashwood and Willoughby. Now these two, they're not a sweet romantic couple like some of the others, but if there's one thing that Taylor Swift does really well, it's heartbreaking breakup songs. I loved you so much, and you betrayed me and you ruined it. That's basically Marianne's attitude, I think, towards Willoughby once she figures out that he's actually no good. There are any number of Taylor Swift songs that do a really good job of describing that sort of emotion, but the ones that I went with are White Horse, I'm Not a Princess, This Ain't a Fairy Tale, It's Too Late for You and Your White Horse to Come Around. I think Marianne has this very sensational romantic view of love where she imagines herself. The novel doesn't describe her as like imagining herself as a fairy tale princess, but I think her view of love is very much one that's influenced by romantic poetry and fairy tales and, just dramatic, overblown stories. I think she very much expects love to be that way, and then when it seems to be and fails her, it's a very heartbreaking moment, and that does, I think, have some of the same sentiment as the song White Horse. When she's still in that period of time where she is grieving for her relationship with Willoughby and she wants it back more than anything and she can't even get out of bed because she's so heartbroken, the song that I think of there is Red. Now, I almost didn't give them this song because I like this song so much, and I think that they're horrible as a couple. But I think that feeling of faster than the wind, passionate as sin, ending so suddenly, losing you was blue, missing you was dark gray, but loving you was red, that so fits their relationship. The way that it starts off and it seems just so perfect and passionate and just everything that she ever dreamed it could be. And then it's gone. And it's ruined. And she's just wallowing in misery. But then later on, once she has kind of come to her senses and she has matured a lot and she's looking back on her relationship with Willoughby, what it makes me think of then is the song Cold as You, which is one of the very first, earliest Taylor Swift songs. And you come away with a great little story of a mess of a dreamer with the nerve to adore you. Now that I'm sitting here thinking it through, I've never been anywhere as cold as you. It's like she's looking back on it and she's realizing, oh yeah, he really did me wrong and he treated other people even worse. Switching back over to Pride and Prejudice, let's talk about Lydia and Wickham. Okay, so the thing is, there is only one Taylor Swift song that I think just totally and completely encapsulates the Lydia and Wickham relationship, and that is, I Knew You Were Trouble When You Walked In. Like, that is just the perfect fit for them. It is their song, and there's really nothing else I have to say about that. Moving past all of these, not so great relationships though, I don't really like the next one either. But let's talk about Marianne Dashwood and Colonel Brandon. So I think that really their relationship is about second chance at love and with a new person that will be better for you than the first person, at least in Marianne's case. With Colonel Brandon, I feel like it's more second chance at love because the first time ended tragically, but with Marianne, it's kind of a different perspective on what love even is. And so I think the song Daylight does a really good job of capturing that new perspective on love kind of feel. I used to think love would be black and white, but it's golden. I used to think love would be burning red, but it's golden, like daylight. Now, some of the actual content of the song is not so much in line with their relationship. Like, my love was as cruel as the cities I lived in. Everyone looked worse in the light. I wouldn't describe Marianne's love for Willoughby as cruel, but definitely there is a sense in that song of past relationships have not gone as desired, and can we make this new one be something better? And sort of a changing expectation for what it feels like to be in love, what a healthy romantic relationship even looks like. The other song that makes me think of Marianne and Colonel Brandon is Begin Again. This is one that has a lot of modern references, and so on a Wednesday in a cafe, maybe not so much. And the thing about records, like vinyl records, that's not really relevant to a Jane Austen era story. But I've been spending the last 8 months thinking all love ever does is break and burn and end. But on a Wednesday in a cafe, I watch it begin again. That sort of moving on with someone new and finding love again after heartbreak, I think definitely fits very well with Marianne and Colonel Brandon. And then you probably noticed which one I have saved for last. Let's talk about Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. So in the song I Wish You Would, it's basically a song about a couple who they've pushed each other away, and they've always, like, you've always known how to push my buttons is one of the lines, so there's some tension between them, and they don't always seem to agree, and they seem to sometimes conflict with each other. But at the same time, they are very much in love with each other, and hoping that it's not too late. When Elizabeth first realizes that she is in love with Darcy, it's like, oh no, because she's pushed him away all this time. She's made an enemy of him. And she's thinking that, well, it's too late for that. It doesn't matter what she feels. And it's like she might have missed her chance. And of course, that's not how it works out. But I think that that feeling of realizing a little bit too late that you really do want to be with someone after antagonizing each other a lot, that really is kind of, it's a similar mood, a similar idea in the song and in that part of the novel. There's also the song I'm Only Me When I'm With You. That's another really old one, but I think it works really well. You drive me crazy half the time, the other half I'm only trying to let you know that what I feel is true, and I'm only me when I'm with you. They bring out something in each other, and they understand things about each other that, you know, even though Elizabeth loves Jane very much, they're so different. I think she has so much in common with Darcy that not only are they in love with each other, but they understand each other on a very deep level. And I think they both drive each other crazy and also are totally in love. So I think that that song fits that kind of relationship dynamic really well. And then the third song that I picked was State of Grace. Now, like I said about a few of the others, State of Grace is a song that uses a lot of modern imagery, and so no, not the part about the traffic lights. I don't care about the traffic lights. But like, oh my goodness, so you were never a saint, and I've loved in shades of wrong. We learned to live with the pain, mosaic broken hearts. Something about that just really screams Elizabeth and Darcy to me, because they're not perfect people, and they make so many mistakes, both of them do over the course of the novel, but it just ends up bringing them together. And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about their relationship, how even though they are both very deeply flawed people, they bring out the best in each other. Do you agree with the songs that I chose, or are there others that you thought of? Let me know in the comments what you think. And be sure to check back soon for part 2, where I'm going to talk about the couples from Emma, Northanger Abbey, Mansfield Park, and Persuasion.